been over a year and I'm still trying to play Diablo 3, and it needs an always online connection. Like, what the hell, man? Hi there, I'm Jim from Just Push Play, and today I'm here to talk about the Xbox One and always online. You know, uh, there are a lot of great online games out there. I started playing Diablo 3. We'll start with Diablo 3. A few months after it came out, I don't remember exactly when I bought it, but I remember playing it. I think it was maybe September, maybe earlier than that last year. And I liked it. I liked the game for what it was. It's a dungeon crawler, and they try to bring back the spirit of the first two games, yet sort of innovate and bring it forward. Because it's been a heck of a long time. It was 10 years we had to wait or more, maybe more. And yeah, I just personally I don't see the reason to always be online. This is actually the second time I'm doing this video because I was having some technical problems, and yeah, so I went back and I came up with more ideas. Uh, Always online, not a fan. When I was playing Diablo 3, I actually had a few problems. Since I'm a big video guy and something that I always wanted to do, but there wasn't something like YouTube, and so I had to deal with photos. And there's a big issue with videos because unless you have a very good internet connection, and Ottawa's, we're really spoiled here actually. I don't believe what they say about people having broadband because it may be like lower end broadband. I think it's like the stat I saw on IGM was like 90% of Americans have access to broadband, but I don't think that's true. In the States, it's actually more expensive. Can be difficult to have um, internet access that's broadband, fast. Uh, Again, we're spoiled here in Ottawa. We are a lot more savvy in Ontario and Ottawa specifically than most of Canada. So a lot of people don't mention that. And having it always online, there are a few pitfalls, to that. Uh, one, the one that I experienced with Diablo 3 was I couldn't do anything else. I tried to upload videos from my main website that I've been doing for 15 years, uh, gscentral.org, and yeah, I could not actually upload any videos while in the background while playing Diablo 3. I couldn't enjoy the game unless I completely cut off any other any other source of data munching, pretty much bandwidth munching. So that was not cool. So I couldn't continue with my daily existence and play the game and enjoy the game. Uh, so that was a problem. Yeah, definitely a problem. So, anyways, I decided, hey, hey, if I have to, I'll make sure that I'll just make Diablo 3 the only source of my bandwidth, in and out, just so that I can actually play the game and hopefully beat it because I was enjoying it. It wasn't as good as I thought it would be, the game, considering the previous two were like, especially my first experience with Diablo 1. Uh, but it was fun. It wasn't. I don't think it was. I think the graphics. We were spoiled by the graphics, which were impressive. But every time I tried to, started to get into the game, I found that the problem with the always online with Diablo 3, it kept reoccurring. I'd be kicked out for no explainable reason, or I think they actually kick you out if you leave your computer for 5 minutes and you're not typing, inactive, which I guess that sort of makes sense, but it doesn't make sense if you are doing nothing else and you dedicate your whole internet connection to Diablo 3 and then you get booted. And I had that. I think I even stopped playing for a few days because it was that bad. Like, it was unbelievable. And I've had friends that actually did play WoW. I never got into it because I don't like games. Here's a spoiler. I don't like games that don't have an ending. If a game has an ending, I'll play it. If it doesn't have an ending, and it's a classic game. What's a good example here? Actually, the only game that comes to mind is Super Off-Road for the Nintendo. Um, Having the privilege of hacking the game, I know that the tracks actually repeat after a while, and that a lot of Atari games are like that as well, um, because they just could not. They either didn't have space for an ending, or you know, they just didn't create one. They just thought, eventually you're gonna lose, right? So what's the point of what's the point of doing an ending, right? Like, in the arcade, you only have a limited amount of coins, so hey. And then there's Donkey Kong, which, anyways, Donkey Kong just sort of ends and crashes, I think. And the same with Pac-Man, I think. I don't know. But that's an interesting tidbit for you. Um, yeah, so I enjoyed Diablo 3. To be perfect frank, I just played it through, I think it was the medium setting, whatever that is. I'm not nitpicky, as you may have noticed. And I enjoyed playing it. My friends actually helped me beat the game because it just gets, I guess, minor spoiler, gets really hard near the end. Unless you just grind, grind, grind. But um, I just didn't want to do it. I just wanted, I knew I was in the last hour or so of the game, and my friends helped me out, and I just wanted my internet connection back. So I think it's moving on to something that's a bit more recent, uh, the, with the Microsoft and the Xbox One. One, one. I'll get over the one. One, the just the name kind of irks me, and I think it bothered a few people. But that's something else. That's not related directly. But the fact that they wanted, I think it was, you had to connect once every 24 hours, and you had to have it to play games, and like the shared library was another thing, which was kind of neat. But I think they really hurt themselves in terms of PR, just actually going out. Like, it was a bold thing to do, and it's cool to take risks, but gamers and people in general don't want that's like a tremendous change, and I don't think it's not inventable. I don't believe it's definitely going to happen. I think online will become more pervasive, but I think it's not really like the danger. There are a lot of dangers with having always online, and I think not a lot of people have done justice to explaining why. And I've seen some people comment on it, and they're praising it. They're in love with Microsoft, and I'm thinking, hello, fanboy, like that's not cool. You can have an opinion, but from what I've seen of the people that have talked about this, especially from the Ottawa area, I'm not going to mention their names, but you'll know, because um, yeah, yeah. If you love Microsoft, great. But I can see through the fact that you love Microsoft, and I think that's the wrong way to go out around gaming. As a gamer, in my opinion, you should love all the companies. Love the games. Don't pick sides per se, because I think as you grow older, you realize, these companies, they're looking for what's best for them. And that's why Microsoft went ahead with this idea. They thought, hey, we can just go ahead and we're Microsoft. We don't have to do what other people think. We don't have to listen to gamers. We'll just assume this is what gamers want. And it's not true. The gamers, there was a huge backlash. That's a big mistake. Hello. That's why you saw, with Nintendo, unfortunately, not really I wouldn't say showing up to this generation, but I'm tempted to, because Nintendo's not really brought out the big guns. Like, they're starting to bring the games, but so what choice do people have, right? People want that, and that's what bothers me. People want choice. People don't want to be told this is how you're going to game. You don't have a choice in the matter, and that's, I think, what people backlashed against. And I don't blame them, because I want the freedom of choice too. Even if it's an illusion, I would like to at least have a choice between being always online or not, because I haven't seen many games that are always online that personally I don't go back and play them. I haven't played Diablo 3 since I beat it. And they've made some patches, you can play versus now, but there's no expansion. There's supposed to be an expansion, I think it was this fall, there's supposed to be one coming out, but who knows? That might be 3 hours. You know, it's not 3 hours is nothing for us gamers. Once we sit down and start enjoying it, and if it's a good 3 hours, great. But like if it's $50, not so great. Um, and Yeah, going back to that, I just have not seen a lot of games. WoW is one game, which they use that engine obviously to build Diablo 3, and that's probably why they thought, well, this is going to solve our problems with all the items that are being copied, duped, cloned, and it did do that, but it made a lot of people angry. It made a lot of people. I read a lot of posts before I even had the game, and it made people angry, and rightfully so. Always online, as I expressed earlier, it really hurt my daily existence because I can't actually go and do something else. It takes up all my bandwidth. Even if I'm uploading like one video, it dropped me out of the game. So I couldn't play the game. So it's like, okay, between the two, which shall I choose? Oh, wait, well, it's just a game. So, what I enjoy doing more is GS Central or now just push play. So, and that didn't exist then. But um, yeah, so I'd rather do that than play a game that tells me how I want to play and whether, spoils my enjoyment of that game because of some draconian idea of this is how you have to play. And gamers don't like that, and people don't like change, but gamers especially don't like change that's sort of forced on them and they don't have the ability to opt out. And I think if you take away that choice, then you're not running a very good business if you think that you have the right to take away people's choice. Um, so yeah, that was one example. I had some other ideas as well, but I sort of looked over, since this is the second time of me shooting the video because of technicalities. Um, I also looked up what IGN had to say because usually I don't go to them. I find that they sort of lost their way, but that's my person's opinion. Um, so I looked it up, and I have a few of the notes. So the notes, don't mind us scribbling. So they were saying it was a bold risk and people fear change. Well, we covered that, so we'll move on. Uh, System and software updates done automatically. This is what bothers me. Actually, that was a good point because that was the point I had the previous time I recorded this, and yeah, technical problems. That's cool, system and software updates in the background, out of the way. But then what about other stuff that's invisible? Those system updates, I want to know if my system is going to be updated. I want to know if I'm getting a patch that may affect, my enjoyment of the system. Like sometimes you get patches for software for PC, and the way they've totally changed how to use that program. It's like you get used to using a program some way. Again, Microsoft's another good example of this with Word. They changed the GUI. I think it was in the last few years, definitely. But yeah, and that's not cool. Like I got used to using that change GUI. However, it's still a pain because they kept it the same, and it's not as user friendly anymore, in my opinion, at least. You may disagree. Um, and it's not. I think companies, they should know when to change, and if they change things up too much, people will give you a backlash. People will give you their opinion, and you've got to be very careful for that. And Microsoft, they have a bit more of a cushy room to maneuver around that. But I think having updates in the background, personally, I don't like having that data transfer back and forth without me knowing about it. You see that with Google. Like that's an example with the maps. And like say sometimes they ask you, do you authorize this? But there's a lot of data that could be transferred. Say if everything in your house, say you had like the Xbox One, let's presume it didn't change, and say that you had a few of them. Say you had 3 to 6, and you were constantly transferring data, and you're like trying to watch. Say you're streaming something from Netflix, and it's all chuggy, but you won't be able to stream. If everything's always connected, it can really slow down your system like everything else you do. Case in point, Diablo 3 and my videos. High definition videos, they can take hours to upload. Say I want to upload a video and yet I want to play a game while I waited for the video to upload. What do you do? Oh, screw the game, screw the console that forces me to have to connect like that. Like that's why so many people are leaning towards the PS4 from what I've seen at least. Now it's not a representative sample, but I can't blame them because the Microsoft lost a lot of credibility and PR in my opinion from trying to force people that way. It's like the school bully. You don't want them to tell you what to do, and like after a while people will rebel against the bully, and that's sort of what Microsoft does. And in my opinion, um, they sort of try and force things to happen and it doesn't work. Look at the Zoom. Slight success or somewhat successful, but Microsoft's trying to lead the way sometimes, and they have a lot of mistakes. They've made a lot of mistakes over the years that and canceled projects that could have put them ahead, And anyways, huge tangent. Yeah, so those updates are great. However, as IGN pointed out, server maintenance, to have all this data, it's expensive to have a lot of data um, transferring between each console. I cannot imagine how the PS3 does it, and cannot imagine how the PS4 is going to do it. So yeah, it's automatic updates. I use it sometimes with my phone or other things, or they at least notify me, but I'll choose. That comes back to that choice. We should have the choice to always, whether we always have the always online or, if we want to play offline. So, anyways, um, so IGN said more people had internet connection. As I said, us in Ottawa, very spoiled, uh, very fortunate Ottawans here, and not everyone has those access. I've even in Ottawa, like I think there's some places in Ottawa that you can't get, for example, like Tech Savvy. Um, it may have improved. I know that they upgraded their systems lately in the last few months, but yeah, we are lucky. We are lucky as hell, and the rest of Canada, I've heard, depending where you live, if some parts of like even Kingston, I presume, you wouldn't even be able to get the same sort of connection. And I would never go back to my old ISPs. I would personally, I'm with Tech Savvy, and we are. You get used to it. You're spoiled by it because here in Ottawa we're so fortunate. Um, so yeah, internet outage. What happens if you're always online? If you're always online and you can't play, and suddenly your internet goes, what are you gonna do? You can't even your Xbox One, for example, if it would they still stuck with that idea, you wouldn't be able to play your game system. Oh, your friend wants you to go over there and play your PS4 or something, or you'd have to go back to the original proper Xbox One that came out years ago and play that if you can downgrade your expectations for graphic quality and everything. Um, but yeah, that's a really big danger. If it goes down, I don't think that's the future. I think people should always have that choice. I've said that a few times, but um, yeah, it can always go down. Systems, anything can always go down. PlayStation Network, there you go, went down. No fun, no fun for a long time, for weeks, and it got hacked into too. So again, that was another point I had in my previous video. These systems are very easy. Like, if you're a proper hacker, and I'm a, console game memory hacker. I'm not a proper, meaning of the term. Um, these systems are very easy to hack if you have the knowledge. I don't have the knowledge, but I have some friends or acquaintances, and they have the knowledge. They make their own tools, and that's what scares me about online, always online. What happens to your computer if you leave your computer on or your game system? Even people get their cell phones hacked, and that's, almost always online per se, because people need their cell phones just in case there's an emergency or something. So Yeah, it's easy to hack into. If you know what you're doing, you can hack into YouTube accounts. And the relevant case is you can, if your system's online and say you go on vacation or you're gone for a day or two, if someone really wanted to hack into your account or multiple accounts at once, it's easy. It's not as secure as banks or these other companies try and have you believe because they don't want you to freak out. It's probably harder than it used to be. They're gradually making steps. But if someone really wanted to hack into and they, know a bit, they can hack into it, you know. And if your system's always online, you're a target. It's a target and far more than say you have your Nintendo Wii U or your PS4 and you stay offline, you know, for and you limit the number of people that can see uh, um, your account, privacy settings, which is sort of another tangent. But yeah, if you leave your system or your system is online, regardless whether you want it or not, you open a new can of worms, and it could potentially be bad because they some of these hackers do it more for the thrill and see if they can actually do it. Some are a bit more malicious. So yeah, I've had experiences with people that have been more for the heck of it, just to see if they could do it, fortunately. But there are some out there that will do it just to cause damage because they want to be a big shot. And there are a few examples of that with the Durango release. I was reading some of that. So with what was that was the code name for Xbox One. And this guy claimed that he had one of the development kits, and then he got invaded by police. Just to give you the short story, and he didn't have really a lot of proof. Um, but anyways, yeah, that's the danger. If you're always online, then you're always susceptible. Maybe that's the best way to phrase it. So, um, so even if it might not, or rather, um, yeah, excuse me. The big point that I thought of after I'd shot the original video was it sort of encourages these companies, and I don't want them to be encouraged, to make games that are entirely online. You know, it may, as I said, may encourage them to do it. And we've seen three Crisis games, um, main games, then a offshoot, and now Crytek is planning all of their games. They're not focusing on PC. So if we ever see PC games, I'm pretty sure they said that they won't be focusing just on PC. So they might release across platform, consoles and PC. I haven't seen anything to otherwise that would go against that. But it bothers me because so many games, they're not even online at all. And like, I like that, one-on-one, you're with your bros, you're on the couch, you're having your favorite junk food and maybe an alcoholic beverage. And, that I don't think, as great as online gaming is, I think that whole friendship, that bonding experience is not the same if you're all standing, or if you're all sitting down in front of your computer and you're gaming online, say Diablo 3, just use that example, and you know, it's fun, yeah, but like there's a world of a difference between I'm standing or sitting with my friends on a couch or in the same room, essentially, and actually everyone's online, you meet up in a virtual chat. And I think I don't want to actually encourage the online gaming from the get-go, like as a foundation point, because I find people, from what I've read, have also said that it's that's going to be the death of the four-player multiplayer, and I find that kind of irksome because I find, what if you want to show up and take your game system, like say just like the N64, you take your Mario Kart 64 to someone else's house, and you could just play within 5 minutes. But say that game was online only, and they didn't have an internet connection, you forgot to ask because, people, you sort of assume everyone has internet access, and it's, not always the case. Not everyone has a car. Not everyone has a cell phone, so it's kind of weird. Or people still using CD players. It's kind of weird because they haven't made that technological leap. But say that happens, it's not like the classic NES or the Sega Genesis. You can just sit down, plug in a few things, plug in the TV, assume the TV is not too old or not too new, and like Duck Hunt, you can't play that with a new system, new TV. And what happens then? If say all of the game systems become that must play online, it's dead center on the front of the box. And I find that would be really sad personally. Game systems, even the arcades, you go to the arcade with your buddy if you have an arcade still today, but back in the day, and like you'd put a few quarters into Bad Dudes or some classic game like Street Fighter 2, and back then that was the best that you could do, back when those games were in their heyday, because you couldn't do that at home, and I think some of that's been lost, and it's unfortunate that some of the younger gamers don't realize that sort of experience being lost, and they only know of, say, the online experience. And that's why still, it's hard, even for me. I find it's hard to sit down and get people together. It is tough, especially with how the uh, the the how our lifestyles have changed pretty much. And yeah, how our lifestyles have changed, and also it's harder to sort of bring everyone, like say one of my friends live in Orleans, and then someone else lives, say, at Baseline, and I live in Barhaven, and another friend, let's say, lives at Gloucester, or that's yeah, it's hard to get people together now. And just due to the spread of the city, um, it's kind of it's and since there's no central point, like the arcades, like we're sort of it it's sort of more inclined to go to that online experience because of the instant gratification. But I think definitely something gets lost. Some of that fun of showing up is like, yeah, I got this Street Fighter game, or we can all sit down on a couch, and then we can, then you can watch a hockey game, right, or something. Like, there's that bonding, and it's not the same if you're online and you kill the boss, and at least I think that, at least, it's not the same for sure. It's not a lot of that bonding that was easier with some of the older generation systems, uh, that um, and having worked at EB Games, I can see that I really, actually, from what I remember, I rarely ever saw. Now this was at the beginning of the Xbox 360, just to sort of time frame it. I saw the beginning of that, but I saw so many gamers, they would come in, unless they were like under 10 with their mom, they would just come in on their own. It was like it's still a solo experience, and I think that's probably why, it's uh, easier to definitely have play online. That's why it's easier for sure, um, than having to go out and like meet people around the city, right? But I think still, like, something gets lost in that process when everything's online. Some of what I think is the gamer spirit gets lost and in the process, and yeah, some of the fun, in my opinion. You know, do you agree, disagree? That's up to you. You can leave a comment. I'm Jim from Just Push Play, and just before we go, so what I say to always online? Hell no. We've come far, but I don't think this is the future, and all out of time. So keep on gaming, guys, and I'll see you next time. Thanks for watching.